Rob Thompson and Desmond Anderson on Charger Career Connect. Welcome, and thanks for joining us, Des.
Hey, Rob, thanks for having me, man. Happy to be here.
2.0 version. I think we go back. The second time around is always the charm anyways. So, yeah, I don't know. I got to work on my timing on that one. That was supposed to be a little bit funnier.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, so you're a 2012 graduate of the CJ degree. You were a DB on our football team. You've had a great career so far up to this point, but let me talk a little bit. I'm going to brag about you a little bit. You just had you took advantage of every opportunity while you were at the university. You started off working in the Beckerman Rec Center, really discovering kind of where, even though you were a CJ major, you kind of had this, you still want to discover the sports industry a little bit. You went out, you played professionally over in Europe. So you're one of the 25 Chargers that went on to play professionally, NFL or in the European leagues. And then you started off financial. You were on the financial side. You did coach. You were a DB coach here at the university. And then you have gone on to where you are now on talent acquisition for Aerotek. Is it a global company or is it nationally?
National.
So Aerotek, talent acquisition, recruiting. So it just gives you a well-rounded balance of a career. And I think is very few people that talk to that have a better feeling of where the industry is right now, just business in general, because you've come from our family and now you're out there and you're looking for talent. So important for you to be connected to our student athletes as a mentor and as someone that can help them as well and really know where the rubber meets the road in the industry. Really, really happy to have you on, Des.
Thanks again, man. I'm looking forward to it.
So let's jump in. Let's jump into you. You're a Jacksonville native. You come all the way up to the Northeast. I'm glad you didn't leave after the first snowstorm. While you were a student athlete, honestly, what were you thinking about your career? Like, what was going through your mind at that time?
Gotcha. So there wasn't much thought to my career as a student athlete besides trying to make it to the NFL. That was the dream. That was the course, and that's what my plans involved. And I always thought, I'd use the degree as a backup plan or maybe after I retired. But then as I got a little older and reality set in, like, hey, man, there's a lot of guys out here trying to make it to the league, and not too many from the D2 level do. I started to become a little bit more well-rounded in other aspects. I got involved in student government, and then I joined Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And then that opened my eyes to a lot of other avenues, realizing that I have certain skills and abilities that translate off the field, and I can be just as successful, doing something off the field and on the field. And so that's where I started to really think more about, I would say around my junior, senior year, started to think more about what I really wanted to do and what I had a passion for. And at that time, football and coaching became that number one option for me.
Was it just part of your career discovery, your junior, your senior year? Were you actively looking for internships or mentors and just building your network? Like, what was that light that just kind of that switch that went off? What was that moment?
I'd definitely say the mentors, some of the older guys within my fraternity, some coaches, just people that I looked up to for advice, conversations. I could run my thoughts by them. Hey, I'm thinking about this. What are your thoughts on it? Do you have any experience? Who else should I talk to? And really starting to build a network in that regard. Like, hey, if this guy can't help me, I'm pretty sure they know somebody who can, and starting to build on that.
Well, somebody that's also played professionally over in Europe, and your exposure to, lifestyles and just life experiences and people, what kind of advice would you give our student athletes? An opportunity to either do a remote internship for a global company or even get a chance to study abroad or go to a different location outside of the Northeast. Like, how have you seen it help job applicants in the world that you live in with a more of a well-rounded life resume?
I think that experience is monumental, to be honest with you. We all are very comfortable a lot of times in our own shell. And once you force yourself or you step out of that shell, it forces you to learn and grow. You face certain things that you haven't faced. You learn a lot about different cultures, and you just get a different outlook. And it helps you become more well-rounded in your thoughts and ideas when you bring them back to your current location.
So talk about, now that we're in this pandemic and you have a lot of these career seekers and what I call rising stars, when you look at soft skills from a talent acquisition standpoint, when you look at soft skill development, what are you looking for as far as just trying to put that talent in the right position? What can student athletes be doing right now today while maybe they're quarantined, or maybe, they're not practicing, or, without any games? What can they do now to really help build those soft skills?
Gotcha. So building a network and taking advantage of the situation, being that, you are probably doing classes online and not really seeing as many people, still finding ways to interact, finding ways to communicate, doing research, getting education, and whether it be within your field, maybe getting certificates or things of that nature that you can use and help build your resume. That's something that they can take advantage of, as well as a lot of companies have the options now to potentially work remote. So that means there could be internship opportunities that you can work remote. So whether you're on the computer, whether you're on your phone, taking advantage of that and just showing that versatility that not only can I work in person with somebody, but I can collab and work with a team via Skype on a day-to-day basis, because the reality is that we don't know what's going to happen, but this has definitely changed and starting to shape our future as far as being able to do a lot of positions virtually or remotely as opposed to face-to-face.
Oh, you went old school with the Skype reference right there. You're right. Well, Skype, I remember that.
That's right. Now we're Zoom or Microsoft Teams.
Google Hangout.
Yeah, Google Hangout.
So let's take a step back then, again, back to the start of your career and your mindset, okay. And we talk a lot about mental toughness, right? Coaches talk about it. Foggy talks about it. Mental toughness is, now we say it's mindset, and they talk about having a big heart, right? But it's more about really that mindset of positivity, of trying to stay ahead of the game, of kind of having those moments. What was your mindset like back then? Because you're just a really positive guy. Is that something that you were always like that? Or is that something as you matured in business, did you realize negativity, all the gossiping, doesn't help any situation, whether you're in a locker room or whether you're in a conference room? What have you learned, and how have you changed along the way?
Okay, I think that was something that I learned from a young age. My father, I look up to him a lot. He's, I would say, if anyone asks who's my hero, it's him. And he's always, even if it's indirectly, he's always had a positive outlook on things. Regardless if something was going wrong, or, a tire, we have a flat tire or something. He was never the type to throw a fit or really get angry. He was always pretty positive, and I kind of sort of took that on and didn't really know where it came from at the time, but I just knew in certain situations, good or bad, to always try to find the positive in it. And then I turned that into sports. Like, hey, when you do good things, when you think good things, when you just are positive, better things happen for you. It seems like things fall into place when you think more positively.
Yeah, it's so true. It really does. It's mind over matter. It just, first of all, no one likes to be around like negative Nancy's and, just negative Nellies and everything. Someone's always the victim. The coach doesn't like me. The boss doesn't like me. Those folks have I found, I'm sure because you're right in the middle of it, those are the ones that don't get to play, or they don't get promoted. They don't become the vice presidents. They don't advance when you're just so negative all the time. And I know it's kind of hard, but at this point, so go back and let's talk a little bit more about challenges, the challenges that you personally faced. How did you overcome those challenges in your career right now, playing career or just your professional career? And what were those things that that could help others along the way to kind of overcome those challenges?
Gotcha. My playing career-wise, I always felt like an underdog. There was an article I read on Emmitt Smith, who I admired growing up, and it was, too small, too slow, and too little. That was the article had, and that was something I always felt like, hey, I'm not the biggest guy on the field. I'm not the fastest guy on the field. Might not be the smartest guy on the field, but the one thing I could control was how hard I worked. And so that's where I laid my hat. Like, hey, I might not be, more talented, more skilled, but I'm going to work harder than anyone else. And that's something that translated on the field as well as off the field within the workplace. I knew that I had certain things that I was good at and certain things where I lacked or needed to grow or have areas for opportunity. But I said, hey, if it comes down to it, if I could just make more phone calls than the person next to me, it's going to work out in my favor. Or I can work a couple more hours, or I can do something that I can control and take advantage of that. It'll work out in my favor down the road.
Yes, I mean, sports is a great, everything that we went through and the student athletes are going through right now, diversity challenges, everything that's being thrown at them is preparing them for the next step. You've seen business as kind of following, what sports is about and all the challenges. What have you experienced, in your career that's really similar to that?
So I would say the most challenging part in the workplace is dealing with adversity. And just like in sports, being able to ride that wave and understand that you're going to have times where business is booming and everyone's happy, things are great, we're high-fiving in the office, the numbers are pouring in, and then you're going to have times where, things aren't good and things aren't working in your favor and you're trying to figure out why and constantly problem solving. And one thing I think sports and that mentality has taught me is, how to kind of stay even keel, not to get too high, not to get too low, but just to stay the course. Know that there's an end goal in mind, and regardless of the situation at the time, if you do the right things on a day-to-day basis, it's going to work out for you.
Yeah, it always does. May not look it at the time. There's no doubt about it. So let's talk about this. We'll wrap it up here, and then I think this is a doozy. But what is that advice? What is that advice that if you're going to go back to Desmond, when you first show up on campus and you're kind of sitting in, Bartell's for the first time and you're like, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? If the Desmond now was to walk in and see you sitting there alone, what would you sit down and what advice would you give to that 18-year-old from Jacksonville, Florida?
This thing's going to go by a lot faster than you think. Take advantage of every opportunity presented to yourself. If you have an idea, if you want to do something, whether it's a little bit outlandish or off the wall or it's not the popular opinion, like take risks. If you want to start a business, figure out how to start a business. If you want to, pursue a certain dream or a certain talent, like go after it. Don't be afraid to fail. There's no such thing as failure. There's just, a lesson learned and another way not to do something and closer to getting to your end goal, and really to take it, like I said it again, or I'll say it again, taking advantage of opportunities. Networking is extremely important. You never know when you meet someone how that relationship is going to grow and what it's going to grow into. But take advantage of that because networking is the key to a lot of success or a lot of open opportunities and open doors for you down the road.
Yeah, networking is key, and you have Desmond here that you need to reach out to, make him part of your network right now in your life, and in your career. He's in the New Haven area, so easy to connect with. Certainly on Skype, he'll Skype you. So Des, share what's your email. Obviously LinkedIn is the best way probably to stay connected, but what if you don't mind sharing your email?
Yeah, email, it's Des Anderson, DESANDERSON at Aerotek.com. Aerotek is spelled AEROTEK.com.
And we'll post that down here, so it's obviously in the graphics. And then, what is the best social media channel to stay connected with you as well? If they want to follow you on Instagram or Twitter.
Yeah, probably in Instagram, Des DSAA6. That's it, Des AA6.
I love it. And Obviously you're around, so please reach out to Des if anything he says resonates with you, and certainly someone who could bounce some ideas off if you're looking for resume building and all that, as well as our services that we have with the Career Center at the university. So this is Charge Your Career Connect. This is the Alumni Spotlight Series with Desmond Anderson. I'm Rob Thompson, your host. Always remember, you're going to figure out what you don't want to do with your career long before you discover a career that you love. Your runway's pretty long. Don't panic. Start building it now. Please don't wait to May, your senior year, to start building and trying to figure out your career. Like Desmond said, junior year, even before then, start thinking about those things, building up your network and your mentors, and Desmond's a great place to start. So on behalf of Desmond, I'm Rob Thompson over here. Go Chargers, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Rob.